Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'll say good morning, everyone. I'm Adele Imrie, Chair of the TCHC Board's Building, Investment, Finance and Audit Committee, and I'd like to welcome you to the public session of today's committee meeting. In light of need for social distancing to limit the spread of COVID-19, we are still holding our committee meetings virtually. Let me begin with an acknowledgement that the lands each of us is on as we hold this virtual meeting is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. During the public session, there will be a number of reports being brought forward for the committee's information, as well as reports coming from facilities management and from information technology services recommending approval from the committee. The reports are detailed in the agenda. We will continue to follow the processes that we've previously established for both deputations for members of the public and voting during the course of today's virtual meeting. Members of the public wanting to depute to an agenda item on today's agenda had the option to do so by either submitting a written deputation or which are circulated to the board, or teleconferencing in and speaking to the committee directly. I will note that there were no requests for deputation on any matters on today's agenda. And my final remarks for today relate to the fact that today marks Sheila Penny's last BIFAC meeting, as she's retiring as COO on March 31st. And on behalf of BIFAC, I wanted to congratulate Sheila and wish her all the best in her retirement. Most importantly, I would like to thank her for her incredible contribution to TCHC and her support of the board, and more specifically, the BIFAC committee. In my opinion, the measure of a career is whether the organization is better and stronger when you leave than when you started. And by that measure, Sheila, you've had an incredible and very distinguished career at TCHC. I know Jag's clapping. I know Jag outlined Sheila's many accomplishments when he announced her retirement. And I wanted to highlight Sheila's leadership in the restructuring of TCHC and directing the organization's focus on servicing the tenants and providing the organization with a roadmap for the future with our strategic plan. I've had the opportunity, as I know other committee members have had, to go to a few hub openings. And I found these to be very inspiring and a tangible example of Sheila's significant contribution to improving TCHC's role as a landlord, and most importantly, how Sheila has ensured that TCHC is fulfilling its mission to provide clean, safe, well-maintained, affordable housing for its residents. So Sheila, on behalf of BIFAC, I would like to say thank you and congratulations, and we wish you all the best. And it's been a pleasure and a great opportunity to work with you. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Chair Imrie. It's been my privilege to serve this board. Thank you.
Enjoy. Have fun.
I will try. Thank you.
I don't think it'll be difficult. So with that note, I'm going to move on to item 2A, which is the approval of the agenda. And as far as additions and deletions to the agenda, I wanted to note that item 2G on the consent agenda and items 4D, E, F, G, and is it H as well?
Yes.
H as well are being deferred to our April meeting. And I will ask if there are any other additions or deletions to the agenda. Okay, hearing none. Are there any items in the consent agenda that the members would like to pull for discussion?
None.
Sorry, John?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. Could I just ask that I have a question on 2F, the Maple Arts. And could I ask if there are any conflicts of interest as it relates to any item on the agenda for today? Okay, hearing none. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended with the deletion of 2G, 4D, E, F, G, and H, and just the exclusion of 2F from the consent agenda? John, thank you. Can I have a second? Naram, thank you very much. All in favor? Perfect. Thank you very much. Sheila, I just had a question on the Maple Arts. Should I direct that to you or?
Sure.
Okay.
Madam Chair, happy to answer.
So in the MOU that we approved, I don't know, I guess it was about a year ago. I think it was in April of last year. There were some conditions. And one of them was like a year from effective date, that there had to be a budget that the TCHC was comfortable with and that your cost consultants had reviewed. There was also a condition that within a year of the effective date of the MOU that they could demonstrate that they had funding.
So through you, Madam Chair, the report that's in your package today was written as of the end of Q4. We do have a further update from Maple Arts. They have revised their construction budget to 2.1 million, and they have secured an additional $737,000 from the federal government. They're confident that they can raise the additional 600,000 that is now outstanding, and they will be providing, they have given us a schedule. They will be providing an update to that schedule, and it will be included in the next report to BIFAC. There is a requirement in the executed lease that construction be completed by April 30th of 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are they still on track for that?
They've submitted a schedule that demonstrates they'll complete a year early in 2023, but we've asked them to have a really good look at that and make sure that they can still hold to that date. And if they can't, we'll provide that update in the next report to BIFAC.
Okay, and your cost consultants have looked at their revised budget?
Our costs I don't have confirmation on that, but if they haven't, they will.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for the update. That's great news.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Sheila as it relates to Maple Arts? Perfect. Okay. So I will move on to item number 3.
Sorry, just if we can have a motion to receive.
Oh, we have to receive that? Okay,
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you. John? Thank you. Naram? Thank you. All in favor? Perfect. Thanks, Dara. So we'll move on to item 3, which is the business arising from the public meeting minutes and action items. Update. Are there any questions as it relates to, Sheila's got them up now? Are there any questions or comments on the action items? Hearing none, could I have a motion to receive? John? Sorry, I can see you well. Nick? Thanks. All in favor? Perfect. Thank you very much. We will move on to item 4A, which is the preventative maintenance service and demand repair for the fire alarm and suppression systems. And I am going to turn this over to Alan. I see Alan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, BIFAC committee members. Item 4A is to establish a new contract for a 5-year term for preventive and demand maintenance services for fire life safety services in our building. The total value of the contract is up to 50.6 million over a 5-year period, which is comprised of three-year initial term and options for 2 subsequent 1-year renewals. It was procured through a public procurement process. The first stage consisted of evaluating the proponents against an established rated criteria, and then the final awards were based on the most advantageous pricing for TCHC while ensuring that we took vendor capacity into consideration. $10.6 million of this award is for regular recurring preventive maintenance service inspection services to ensure that our fire life safety systems in our buildings are in compliance with all applicable codes, that they're functioning properly to ensure the safety of our tenants and the buildings that they live in. The remaining 40 million over the 5 years is for demand repair services that to ensure that the fire life safety systems in our building remain in a state of good repair. The annual asks are based on historic spend. Work completed by these vendors is monitored by facilities management to ensure that only needed repairs are completed and that the work is performed satisfactorily and to our standards before being paid for. A quarterly reconciliation of this program will be completed going forward. Funding for this award has been confirmed in the 2022 budget and will be included in future budget asks. Your approval for this award is requested.
Are there any questions for Alan? John?
So it says on the third page of the report that the prior award was just under 35 million. Is that correct?
That is correct. However, the prior award was for a smaller scope of services. There were increases as a result of changes in code. So the new scope of services are what's contemplated in this award. And it does increase the overall cost because it's for a larger scope of work.
So can you provide us with some detail as to what additional scope of work is required?
Sure. There's some additional code requirements that are checking mechanical water flow, looking at things such as the drip drums, and also how these systems integrate with the other building systems, such as making sure that when the fire alarm is activated, that any mag locks in buildings disengage, elevators, are recalled to the main floor. It's more comprehensive than what it may have been done in the past.
And because it amounts to almost a 43% increase over the previous contract. Do the award winners, do they provide you with an estimate as to the additional hours that are required to provide service on a per building basis, or how do they come up with their estimates?
Well, we look prior to putting out an award, we look at what would be required for this, and this award as well is right bang on with our estimate. So the staff that we have within the fire life safety department within facilities management, they have a solid understanding of the industry, and they would look at it. And you're right, it's basically with the preventive maintenance services, it's additional time that is going into the actual award, as well as part of the 50 million too, as I mentioned, is for demand maintenance services, and that is a upper limit that is put on the value per year, and that's also taking into account that we do believe there will be sorry, not that we do believe, we know that there would have been increases in prices based on what's happening, as well as just taking a look at what's happening in the industry in general and with all prices in general. So that was taken into account.
What does demand maintenance mean? Does it mean that when something breaks, we call them and they're sort of on call? Is that the way
Correct.
that works? Is that what it means?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it could be building staff may see something. There could be a trouble light on a panel, and they are called. They're on call. They have service standards to come and report to fix. Obviously, fire life safety the systems are extremely important in our building, so we don't want them to be down at any time. If they are down at any time in any of our buildings, we do have procedures in place that we follow as prescribed by Toronto Fire Department on what we need to do if a system is down, and we follow all of those.
So is this award, is it in addition to the additional code requirements, is this award particularly high because we have old buildings? Does that have something to do with the age of the buildings? Or not?
I wouldn't say that it necessarily has to do with the age of our buildings. I mean, it does have to do. We do have a large number of buildings. We have a large number of systems. We do provision for any maintenance that's required on them. We do have a solid program in place where we review systems. If a system, and actually you're going to see an award coming up later in the agenda for replacement of a system. We do monitor that. I wouldn't say that it's because our buildings are old, though.
Okay, so we have something like 2,100 buildings, but there's thousands of apartment buildings across Toronto. And do they purchase these services to the same degree that TCHC does?
So they would be required to do the inspection services. Whether they do it or not, I can't speak to that, but they would be required to. I will say that based on anecdotal information that we've received, just in conversations, we do keep our systems in an absolute very good state of good repair. It's something that we don't compromise on, nor should
Right.
anybody.
Right.
But we have heard through the industry that there are private landlords that might try to
Cut corners.
reduce costs in that and not make repairs that they should be making.
Okay, that's all my questions, Adele. Thank you.
Brian? Thanks, John. Brian, you're on mute.
I was just wanting to ask whether the improvement in code requirements in terms of life safety, fire life safety, whether there's any impact on our insurance, because obviously if we're taking more responsibility in that area, it improves or reduces hopefully the risk. So I just wondered whether there's any impact on that side of the ledger.
So I'm happy to jump in if you're okay, Alan. I think the primary driver in terms of our insurance costs are going to be our claims history. To the extent that we can improve upon that history through the implementation of these measures in terms of fire life safety infrastructure, we should be able to expect some increase to our premiums subject to market forces. But it's an indirect process. We wouldn't receive credit from the insurance market for these types of changes without proven impact on claims history.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Alan on this contract? I can't see Naram or Nick, so I'm just hoping that they'll speak up. Okay.
No questions for me, and I promise to speak up.
Okay, thank you. Eric, now I see.
Thank you.
I hate to think that somebody's put up their hand and I can't see. Alan, can I just ask one question? There are 2 awards for the seniors buildings. Will they be assigned to TCHC? Is that the right?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, that's the right acronym.
Okay.
No, they will not be assigned as far as I know as of today. TCHC, Toronto Community Housing Corporation, will continue to provide all preventive maintenance services to TSHC, to Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation. We will continue to own the building, and we will continue to do capital in the buildings just as we do today, and we will continue to deliver these preventive maintenance and demand maintenance services as we do today.
Okay, so they will pay us for that service in their buildings because they're collecting the rent or will be collecting the rent?
I believe that's how it will be structured.
Okay.
Thank you. I see Jag put his hand up. He may have more information than I do.
Through you, Chair Emery, I believe we'll be able to address more detail in the workshop this afternoon as far as the June 1st, I guess, details as far as an agreement goes. However, we're trying to simplify things. If I may say, we're trying to simplify things as much as possible for June 1st as we work out what the longer term would look like.
Okay. So I just hope that even though we own the buildings, I hope this is some recovery as it relates to our costs in this area. So are there any
Yes,
other
there
questions?
will be.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Alan? Okay, hearing none, could I have a motion to approve this award, contract award? Brian, thank you. Nick, seconder, excuse me. All in favor? Thank you very much. I can't see Naram, so are there any opposed? No, I'm presuming he voted in favor. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 4B, which is the ground maintenance and snow clearing services. So Alan, you're still up.
Thank you, Chair Emery. Item 4B is for ground maintenance and snow clearing services for our former contract managed buildings in OUX and OUY. This is a publicly procured award for 4.4 million, which will ensure that these important services continue uninterrupted for the safety of our tenants and to ensure the grounds around our buildings are properly maintained. The term of the contract is for approximately 3 years, which was chosen to coincide with the grounds and snow removal contracts we have for other buildings, so that upon expiry of all of the contracts, they can be tendered together to obtain the best possible pricing. The recommended proponent has previously completed similar work for TCHC with satisfactory results. All the grounds work is monitored by both facilities management staff as well as building staff to ensure that vendor performance meets our standards. Your approval for this award is requested.
Are there any questions for Alan as it relates to the landscaping and snow removal contract? John?
Hi, Alan. What are the requirements in the non-winter season for? Is it just cutting of grass, or is it planting, or what all do we require of the maintenance people, the landscaping?
Through the chair, yes, it is. There is cutting of the grass. There is cleanup of litter around the building. Depending on their building, there could be specific things to buildings with regards to planting, although a lot of that is done through the building staff and obviously tenant groups like to look at the planting. And then in the springtime, they will do a cleanup, like to get rid of the winter debris that's accumulated once the snow has melted. And then also in the fall, they are also doing cleanup with leaves and things like that.
All right, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Alan as it relates to this contract? Okay, hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the award of this contract? John? Nick, seconder. All in favor? Perfect, motion passed. Alan, we'll move on to item 4C, which is the contractor award for the fire alarm upgrades at 200 Wellesley Street. And
Thank you,
I'll ask
Madam
you to
Chair.
speak to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 200 Wellesley is TCHC's largest building with over 400 units. The existing fire alarm system, although functioning properly, is beyond its expected life and needs to be replaced. The project is an extensive one and consists of replacing the complete system, including devices throughout all areas of the building, including in-tenant units. This $4.4 million project was procured through a public procurement process and is within the initial project estimate. The successful lowest bidding proponent has completed work for TCHC in the past with satisfactory results and no concerns. As this project will involve entering into tenant units, facilities management will work closely with the building staff and with our planned project services team, which is part of FM, to ensure that any unique tenant needs are met and that our tenants are aware of the project as what it entails, how it will unfold, and also with regular updates, because we do recognize that this is going to be an intrusive project, although absolutely necessary that it be done. Your approval for this project is requested. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Alan as it relates to the fire alarm upgrades at 200 Wellesley? Alan, can I just ask, what is the timeline for this work?
This project will take approximately 24 months, start to finish.
Okay, and I'm presuming they have to enter every unit?
Correct.
Brian Nelson. Okay, and is there any issue with tenants allowing you to enter their units?
There can be, yes. It's something that we often encounter. So what we do is we do work with building staff and our planned project services team initially, before the project even starts, before anyone, a contractor enters the building, to understand the makeup of the building, any unique needs that there may be with specific tenants, vulnerable tenants, for example, as well. So we understand that at the beginning of the project. We do try through working with building staff and with our planned project services team to engage those tenants early, to try to ensure that we don't have issues with entry. That there are some cases where we still will be refused entry, and if that does happen, then we work with the building staff in order to gain entry, because we do have to obtain entry into the units, obviously, to finish this. But we do try to work with the tenants as much as possible, leaving, if the time isn't convenient, we do work with the tenant to find a convenient time. We will hold those units until the end of the project if it takes more time and we continue to work with them. But I can assure you, at the end of the day, we will complete the upgrade in the unit. But we do just try to work with all tenants, to do it in mutually agreeable way prior to seeking any other methods to enter into a unit.
Okay. I'm presuming that the 24-month timeline sort of allows for the fact that there may be some issues.
Absolutely.
And is there any way that you can require a tenant to allow you to enter? Because I figure this is life safety, that they have to. Okay.
Absolutely. As I say, we try to work with the tenants to come to something that's mutually agreeable in order to get the work done. But you're correct. At the end of the day, this is required work that we must do in the unit, and we do have the right as a landlord to complete this work in the unit. We just that's our last resort to go that route.
You want to be respectful. Yeah.
Absolutely. We are absolutely respectful of the tenants. We also work with the tenants to, as I say, understand their needs. It may be, that we do even set up places within the building that a tenant could go if they didn't, if they wanted a quiet place away from things like that. We do that very often with our projects. It's not something that's unusual for us to deal with, and the team with the building staff are very good at making sure that we can get the work done, but working with our tenants and being respectful of
I just wanted to make sure that the contractor accommodated that in the timeline and the costs.
Yes, they
Brian?
absolutely do.
Thank you.
My question was along that line too, is whether there's been any communication with the tenants in the building at this point in time.
Through the chair, at this particular time, they would know that the project is upcoming, because we do post 60-day notices for all of our projects as we're required to do, but it would just be a very high level notice at this point in time. Once we have the contractor on board, then we can work with the contractor, with the building staff, with facilities management staff to work out a more defined schedule. And then at that point, that's when we can communicate the more specific details to tenants. And absolutely, we work with the building staff, and if they believe that a tenant meeting is necessary, we're absolutely, we hold number of tenant meetings regarding construction projects. It all really depends on the building. There are some buildings where tenants are very involved and want to know, all the details, and there's other buildings where it's like, okay, you're replacing the fire alarm system. Great, thank you. Let me know when you're coming into my unit. And that's the extent of it. But we do tailor it, and this is for all of our projects. We tailor them depending on the building, depending on the tenants, and we get a lot of input through our building staff and just the facilities management knowledge of working in buildings previously.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Alan as it relates to this contract award? Okay, hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the contract award for the fire alarm upgrades at 200 Wellesley? John, thank you. Nick, seconder, thank you. All in favor? Perfect. So then we're going to jump to 4I, which is the change order for design revisions at 2180 and 2190 Ellesmere Road. And Alan, I'm going to ask you to speak to that one as well.
Thank you, Chair Emery. Last item for facilities management is a change order related to an interior upgrade project at 2180 and 2190 Ellesmere. The change order is in the amount of $43,000, which is broken down as follows. We have $23,000 for design revisions and permit resubmissions for work at 2180 Ellesmere, and $20,000 for design revisions and permit resubmission for work at 2190 Ellesmere. To ensure accessibility, the original design included an accessibility ramp. However, upon further structural investigation, it was determined that the ramp was not structurally possible, and thus these design revisions were required. These changes are reflective of that in the change order. The fees for these changes are based on a set percentage that was determined during the tender process. There have been previous change orders on this contract. However, it should be noted that this contract covers 4 projects. Going forward, facilities management will work with procurement to determine how this can be avoided, because it does, it complicates things by combining the work together. It may result in an efficient procurement process, but it creates challenges when one contract is issued and then there's changes to the specific building within that contract. So your approval for this $43,000 change order is requested.
Are there any questions for Alan as it relates to this change order? Alan, is it possible if you tender them together to actually enter into 4 separate contracts as opposed to just one?
Yeah, and that, thank you, Chair Emery. That is something actually that I am working with our procurement team right now, because again, we understand the efficiencies for tendering together, but to your point, we would like to have separate contracts issued for the buildings. So we'll work to see if that's possible, and then move forward accordingly.
Okay. So are there any other questions for Alan? If not, could I have a motion to approve this change order for the design revisions on Ellesmere? Nick, thank you. Could I have a seconder? Brian?
Narim put up his hand, so you couldn't.
Oh,
see
sorry,
him.
I can't see him.
That's no problem.
I don't see
Hopefully
his
you
little
can see me
square.
now.
Sorry. You got to
That's okay.
shout.
All right.
Okay, I've got a seconder. Thank you. All in favor? Perfect. I don't know how we decide which squares everyone sees, but anyway, sorry. So we are going to move on to actually the last item on our agenda, which is item number 5, and it's the change order for KPMG, Quality Assurance Services for Homes. And I'm not sure, we're quite a bit ahead of schedule, so I can't see, is Louisa on the call?
I am. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. There you are. Thank you.
You're
And thanks,
welcome.
Alan.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, we are running quite a bit ahead of schedule.
Yes.
I'm seeking approval of the BIFAC committee for a change order to KPMG for quality assurance services on the Homes project in the amount of $48,000 to add an additional 2 months of services to accommodate the delay in the Homes project. As outlined in the Q4 Homes report presented to BIFAC in January 2022, the Homes project delayed the start of in-person training for the final phase of the Homes project due to the emergence of the Omicron variant in late 2021, resulting in a new launch date in May of 2022. KPMG has been the provider of quality assurance services since the beginning of the project. The cost of this extension will be allocated to COVID-19 expenses, and I'm requesting approval of the committee for this change order.
Are there any questions for Louisa? Oh, sorry, John, yes?
So this is essentially just an extension, is that what it is, for 2 more months, that's all?
Correct. The current agreement expires on March 31st, which would have taken us to the original date that we had for February 2022. And this takes us to May 31st. So it's just an additional 2 months.
And so how much do we presently pay KPMG on a monthly basis?
So we've had a reduction in this agreement from the beginning. The original monthly amount when the project was in full swing was approximately $39,000 per month. When we had the final extension and the decoupling of Track 2B, we reduced that amount to $30,000. This is an additional reduction to $24,000. So for a total reduction of about 38% from the original agreement. And that's because the scope of the project has been reduced now. We're only in the final phase.
So what do we get for $24,000 a month?
Yeah, so KPMG attends all of our project meetings and our risk meetings. They also have a standing meeting with our executive sponsor and provide a monthly report outlining all of the risks on the project and to determine whether or not the project is properly mitigating those risks. And they also provide additional support when we have any emerging risks, and we seek KPMG's input into how we might mitigate those.
And so how many hours?
John, can I just add something? KPMG is also going to come and report to BIFAC. I think we're doing a special homes meeting. So,
yes.
So they will be reporting to you.
Correct, Chair Emery. They will be coming back in April in a special meeting.
So with all of those meetings and oversight that occur on a monthly basis, approximately how many hours would that involve KPMG personnel? Is it coming in?
So I don't have that immediately at my fingertips. I could provide that. I believe that's also incorporated in the report that we are providing in April. It's a considerable number of hours. And again, the reduction of hours is now due to this reduced scope of the project, and we're in the final phases. I don't have that information available to me right now.
I'm just trying to figure out how much per hour they're charging us for the next 2 months. Is it $500 an hour? Is it $1,000 an hour? Are there 2 people coming in, or are there a dozen people coming in? Is it 6? And how much, how much does this work out to? And that's one question. The other question is there not sort of a law of diminishing returns after having them on the file for so long? Have we not learned? Not that we've learned all that we need to learn and that we know all that we need to know, but I'm just asking about the value of the service that continues to be provided.
Yeah, so I believe that KPMG provides tremendous value to the Homes project and has been there. It has been a very challenging project with respect to emerging risks. COVID was one of them, but there were other issues that were surfaced with respect to the Homes project. I can tell you that the hourly rate is less than what you indicated, but again, I don't have that information at my fingertip because it is blended, because we do have a number of representatives for KPMG that we might tap on. So for example, we might tap on an infrastructure architect if we had some questions, or we might tap on one of our quality assurance advisors. So it's a number of different roles that become available to us over the course of that month.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But that variety, Louisa, is included in the fixed price.
Correct. Yes, it is, Chair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions for Louisa? the only question I had was, I think at the last meeting when you were talking about the COVID budget delays, it was like, I don't know, 1.1 million. I know that we approved something for Yardi. I just wondered how you're doing with that.
Yes, so the approval for Yardi was with respect to the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation work and was not
Oh,
related to
okay.
the homes project. We have concluded our review of the change orders required and the total cost of that delay. It is coming in at around 1.4 million for the total delay, and we are presenting that in the report to BIFAC in the next homes update.
Okay, and so the Yardi, the 700 for Yardi, that's coming out of a different
Yes,
bucket?
that is the seniors housing.
This, so is the seniors housing funding that, or?
Yes, that is
Okay.
being funded from a separate, separate bucket of money.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions for Louisa as it relates to, excuse me, this change order for KPMG? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the change order? John, can I have a seconder? Brian, thank you. All in favor? Thank you, Louisa.
Thank you.
So I think if there's no other business, my concern is that our April meeting is going to be a heavy one because we've deferred a number of items to that that meeting. But as far as this meeting goes, we're an hour and a half ahead of schedule, so we might have to pay for it next month.
Hopefully everything will go smoothly.
Sorry, was there someone else who had a comment?
Nope.
No? Okay. So if there's no other business, could I have a motion to adjourn? John, thank you. Brian, I can see you. So second, all in favor?